Good day, grade 10 learners. Welcome to our mathematics lesson. I am Skulile Ncube, and this lesson is proudly brought to you by the Gauteng Department of Education. Are you ready for the lessons, grade 10? I really hope so. Okay. Right, today we're going to look at algebra, and we are dealing with algebraic expressions, and then we are going to be doing factorization. Do you know factorization? Yes, we're going to be doing factorization. We're going to be doing three methods of factorization, okay? Right, before we start, grade 10s, I want us to take note of the following. Right, the expectations, what I expect from you. Right, you are expected to have your workbook ready in every lesson. Please don't just sit there and listen to me. You have to have your workbook ready. You are going to be writing notes. You are going to be doing activities, and you are going to be marking your work. Okay? Right. Please make sure that you have your workbook ready. And then have your calculator. You must have your calculator. You must have your pen. You must have your pencil in every lesson. Because we don't want to start a lesson and then people start borrowing things and disturbing others, isn't it? Okay, please make sure that you are ready for the lesson and then fully participate during the lesson. I want you to ask questions during the lesson. If there's something you do not understand, ask the question. Don't wait for the lesson to end. Okay, you ask the question. We're using our WhatsApp line 079 454 9535. I want us to be engaged with the lesson and make sure that we participate and we discuss. Okay, right. No concept. I mustn't go to the next concept before you what? Before you understand the concept that we'll be discussing at that particular time. Right? And then do all the activities you are given, and after that we're going to discuss and write our answers and make sure that you do your corrections. So you do the activities, and during the marking session, then you have to what? You have to do your corrections. Okay? Right. And then ask for assistance. Don't be afraid. Don't be afraid. Ask, just say the name of your school, and then you ask the question using the WhatsApp. Okay? The name of the school is very, very important. And please avoid disturbing others. Avoid disturbing others. This is very, very crucial. So we have to make sure that no one is disturbed. If I give you time for you to discuss, I will tell you, I'll give you time. Discuss this, then you can start discussing. But otherwise, if I'm presenting the lesson here, you listen and do your work. Okay? And write your short notes. Please be engaged. Don't just listen. If you just listen without writing short notes, it is going to be just passive like that. Make sure that every time I'm saying something, take note of the what critical points there. Okay? Right. Now, at the end of the lesson, let's come back to our lesson. At the end of the lesson, you should be able to factorize algebraic expressions with focus on the following concepts. We're going to look at the highest common factor. The highest common factor, how do we factorize using the highest common factor? And then we're going to look at the factorization of the trinomial, quadratic trinomial, and we're going to look at what? Grouping in pairs, factorization by grouping in pairs. These are the three methods we're going to look at in this lesson. Okay, right, so these are the lesson objectives. But before we move any further, I want us to just take a 1 minute break. 1 minute break, then we come back and continue with our lesson. Right, welcome back. Grade 10th. Let's move on. Right. So we have our pre-knowledge. We've done algebraic expressions in grade 8 and 9. We have also done factorization, isn't it? So we have to use the knowledge we have about these concepts in this lesson, okay? So I want you to do an activity. I'm going to give you 5 minutes on this activity. You are using what you learned in the previous grades to what? To answer the questions, okay? Right, it's fine. Try. Even if you don't understand something, it's okay. I'm going to explain after you've tried. Okay, let's go to our baseline activity. I'm going to give you what? 5 minutes. Answer all the questions in 5 minutes, and then after 5 minutes, we'll come back and discuss these questions, okay? Let's try. 5 minutes. Welcome back, grade 10s. I really hope you managed to answer the questions. Remember, we are discussing. It is very, very important that we discuss during the lesson, isn't it? Our WhatsApp line 079 454 9535. Please send us your questions, send us your input. If I'm moving fast, please tell me, say you're moving fast, or say I did not understand this concept, so that we benefit from this lesson. Okay? Right. So let's answer our questions now, and you're marking your work. Please do mark your work and write corrections. Okay? Right. Now, identify the highest common factor given the following terms. So we have 8x, 4x squared, and 12. Let's look at the coefficients of these variables. Right, we have 8, 4, and 12. Just by inspection, what is the highest common factor if you look at 8, 4, and 12? The highest common factor is what? Is 4. Okay? And then let's look at the variables. X, x squared, x cubed. These are the powers actually. X to the power 1, x to the power 2, x to the power 3. What is the highest common factor there? How do we identify the highest common factor if we're talking about powers? X to the power 1, x to the power 2, x to the power 3. How do we identify the highest common factor? We take the power with the lowest exponent. Okay? We take the power with what? With the lowest exponent. Let's say I just have these. Y squared, y to the power 7, say y to the power 3. And I say, what is the highest common factor there? It will be y squared, because it is the power there with the lowest exponent. So it means here, considering the coefficients, it will be 4 and x to the power 1. So 4x is our highest common factor. Okay? Right, let's go to B. Oh, there are brackets there. Do we have the highest common factor there? Right, x times x plus 1 plus 2. There's a bracket there, there's a bracket there. Do we have the highest common factor? Yes, the bracket there is the highest common factor. That bracket x plus 2 is the highest common factor. Please take note of that. We're going to be using this in our lesson. So the highest common factor there is x plus 2. Okay? Even in the bracket like that or without brackets is fine. The highest common factor is x plus 2. Okay? Mark your work. And then let's go to question 2. Factorize fully 2x y squared plus xy. What is the highest common factor there? How many terms do you see there? How many terms do you see in this expression? It's 2 terms. It's 2 terms. And how do you see the terms? The terms are separated by a plus or a minus. Terms are separated by a plus or a minus. So there are 2 terms. And let me tell you this, grade 10s. If you have 2 terms and you're factorizing that expression with 2 terms, inside the bracket, you must have 2 terms. I'm going to emphasize this because I've seen this. It's a very, very common mistake. I'll tell you why people end up having 1 term in the bracket instead of 2. Okay? So we have 2x squared, 2xy squared plus xy. The highest common factor there is xy. Okay? How did you get that? Remember how we factorize. We factor out the highest common factor, which is xy. Oh, let me erase this. We factor out the highest common factor, which is xy. And then we divide each term by that highest common factor. So we divide 2xy squared by xy. And then we divide also this one, xy divided by xy. Okay? And then what do people do? People like saying cancel, cancel. I don't even like that cancel, cancel, because people think that things disappear. Okay? There's no cancelling. There's no operation like cancelling in mathematics. So we have 4 operations. We're dividing here. X divided by x is 1. Y divided by y is 1. So xy divided by xy is 1. It does not disappear. If you say cancel, cancel, then you think that it has disappeared. That's why you find people having 1 bracket, because they think this has disappeared. We have divided xy by xy and we are getting 1. You see, there's a 1 there. And then here, x divided by x is 1. And then y squared divided by y, we remain with y. So we have 2 terms, and then we factorize. And then inside the bracket, please take note, I'm saying inside the bracket there are 2 terms. But remember, when you put things inside the bracket, it becomes 1 term, isn't it? Okay, so don't make that mistake. Don't make that mistake. So if you divide xy divided by xy, it's 1, not 0. Right, question 3a. Expand x plus 2 times x minus 3. We're using the FOIL method, isn't it? FOIL method. Do you remember that? FOIL means first, and then O is what? Outer. O. X and negative 3. And then I inner. And then L the last. Okay? So it's FOIL. Okay? So it becomes x times x, which is x squared. And then x times negative 3 is negative x. Negative 3x, sorry. Negative 3x. And then 2 times x is positive 2x. And then 2 times negative 3 is negative 6. Then these are like terms. We can simplify that. Negative 3x plus 2x. What is negative 3 plus 2? It's negative 1, isn't it? Then we remain with this. You see that? X squared minus x minus 6. Okay, I'll come back to this one. Let's answer B. Then I'll come back to this. I just want to say something about this. Something that we're going to use in our lesson. Right, what type of a polynomial do you get when we expand the expression in A? What type of an expression is this in 3A? X squared minus x minus 6. What type of an expression is that? It is a trinomial. Trinomial. Tri means what? 3. The prefix tri means 3. Binomial, 2. Trinomial, 3 terms. Binomial, 2 terms. Monomial, 1 term. Right. Now, I said I want to come back to this. Something interesting. I want you to look at these numbers. Positive 2 and negative 3. If you say positive 2 times negative 3, what do you get? You get negative 6. Do you see that if you multiply these numbers in the bracket here, positive 2 and negative 3, they give us this constant. Do you see that? Say negative 2, positive 2 times negative 3, we get negative 6. And then let's add them now. Let's say positive 2 plus negative 3, which is like positive 2 minus 3. What do you get? We get negative 1, which is the coefficient of x. So if we multiply these numbers, okay, factors, right, we get the constant. And then if we add them, we get the coefficient of x. Please take note of that. I'm going to remind you again, we're going to be using this when we're factorizing the trinomial. But we're going to start by factorizing using the highest common factor. Okay? We'll come back to factorizing the trinomial. Okay? Right. Now, before we go there, I want you to observe something. These are the two concepts that we're doing. We do expanding. Expanding, we are finding the product. We're multiplying those two brackets. We're finding what? The product is called expanding. And then when we expanded this, we got x squared minus x minus 6. And then we're going to be doing the opposite of expanding today. We're going to be doing the opposite of what? Of finding the product. We're going to be finding factors. We're moving from this to the factors. And then that process is called factorization. Not complicated. Just take, for example, we're saying 2 times 3. These are the factors. And then it's equal to 6. 6 is the product. So if you're moving from the product to the factors, you are factorizing. That's factorization. So these two brackets are the factors of this product. This is the product. These are the factors. We have broken the product into its factors. Factorization. Okay? If you multiply the factors, what do you get? The product. If you break the product into its factors, we have factorized. Okay? Right, let's move on. Grade 10s. Factorization is the opposite of expanding. Right, given the expression, I'm going to be giving you time to try things, okay? Maybe I'm giving you 1 minute for something, okay? Till we understand what we're doing here. Given the expression 3bx minus 6, how many terms do you observe? How many terms do you see? 1 minute. You are free to discuss with your colleague there. 1 minute. How many terms do you see there? Welcome back, great terms. How many terms did you see there? They are two terms. Two terms. They are separated by the minus. It's 3bx and negative 6. Right. What is the highest common factor of 3bx and negative 6? What is the highest common factor of 3bx and negative 6? I want you to say the answer there. Don't discuss. We're not going to have 1 minute now. I just want the answer. Just say it. Raise your hand in the class there and say the answer. What is the highest common factor? It is 3. Okay, it is 3. Right. And then I want you to do this. I'm going to give you now another minute. I want you to factor out this highest common factor. We're factorizing this. Factor out the highest common factor and divide each term by it. So our highest common factor is 3. You put it outside the bracket. And then inside the bracket, you divide 3bx by that highest common factor, which is 3, and divide negative 6 by that highest common factor, which is 3. Let's do that in 1 minute. Right, welcome back, great tense. So what did you get? We factored out 3 and then we divided each term by 3. So we say 3 divided by 3 here is 1. We remain with bx. 3 into negative 6, we get negative 2. And then we get inside the bracket like that, bx minus 2. And then outside the bracket, 3. We have factorized. This is how we factorize using the highest common factor. Okay? Right. This is our first activity. I want us to do this one like this. Right, there are 3 questions. I'm going to give you 2 minutes for each. Factorize using the highest common factor. Let's do A for 2 minutes, and then after that we mark our work, then we go to B. Okay, let's start with A for 2 minutes. Right, welcome back, great tens. Right, now what is the highest common factor between 2x and 8? The highest common factor is 2. So what do? We write it outside the bracket. And then what we do? We divide every term by that highest common factor. So we say 2x divided by 2 plus 8 divided by 2. Okay, you see that? So we divide each term by the highest common factor. Right, what is 2 divided by 2? It's 1, we remain with x. And then what is 8 divided by 2? We remain with 4 there. You see that? And then in the bracket, we're going to have x plus 4. You see that? Okay, please mark your work. Let's answer them. Right, with time, we're not going to be doing this step. We're going to get used to it. And then we just do this from the question to the answer like that, okay? But let's try to do it step by step so that we understand it and we do the right thing. Right, B, I'm going to give you 1 minute because it's similar to what we just did in A. So let's do B for 1 minute. Right, welcome back, greetings. What did you do? What did you get? Did you get the correct answer? Let's find out. Remember, greetings, we have to communicate 079-454-9535. Please send us your input, send us your questions. Right, now, what is the highest common factor here is 3. So we factor out 3 and then say 3x squared divided by 3 minus 3 divided by 3. And then what do you get? We get 3. And then 3 divided by 3 is 1, so we remain with x squared. And then 3 divided by 3, what do you get? We get 1. It doesn't disappear. Okay, so our answer is 3 times x squared minus 1. Right, I would say if you have done this, let's mark it for now. Okay, but have we fully factorized this? Because you've done this concept in grade 9, in grade 10, we haven't done it yet. We're going to do it in the next lessons, but we have done it in grade 8 and 9. Have we fully factorized this? What must we do then? X squared and 1 are what? Are square numbers, isn't it? 1 is 1 squared. So this is the difference of 2 squares. So if you fully factorize this, your answer must be 3x minus 1 and then x plus 1. Okay? It is supposed to be like this. Okay? Right, remember that. It says factorize fully. Okay? Right, but for now, you can have that. And if you have done this part, well done, excellent. That's what we're supposed to do anyway. Right, and then let's go to C. Let me give you 1 minute for C. 1 minute. Let's try C for 1 minute. Right, welcome back, greetings. Let's mark our work. So what is the highest common factor? How many terms do you see there? Two terms. Do you see there are two terms? It is this term and this term. Do they have the highest common factor? Yes, they have the highest common factor, which is a bracket x minus 1. So we factor out the bracket x minus 1. And then what do? We divide every term by that highest common factor. So it becomes 2x minus 1, which is this one, divided by x minus 1. And then plus this one, x times x minus 1 divided by x minus 1. Okay, then x minus 1 divided by x minus 1 is 1. We remain with 2 there. Then x minus 1 divided by x minus 1 is 1. We remain with x there. So we have factorized x minus 1 and then 2 plus x. See that? Okay, so when we factorize this, we must get this, which is the answer. Some people just say if you have a common bracket, this forms your first bracket, x minus 1 forms your first bracket, then you just take this term or variable, number of variable on this one to form the second bracket. It's a shorter way of doing it, but actually what you're doing is this to get the answer. Okay, so this is how we factorize using the highest common factor. But before we move on to the factorization of the trinomial, I want us to look at a different or something almost similar to what we've been doing, but a bit different. Let's look at this situation. Right. We are factorizing, we're supposed to factorize 2x times 2 minus x plus 3 times x minus 2. How many terms do you see here? 2 terms. Right. Are these 2 terms having a highest common factor? Do they have the highest common factor? If it is there, what is it? It is not there, because the first bracket is 2 minus x, and then the second bracket is x minus 2. Those are two different things. Remember, subtraction is not commutative. It's not commutative. 3 minus 2 is not the same as 2 minus 3. 3 minus 2 is 1. 2 minus 3 is negative 1. So we can't say 2 minus x is the same as x minus 2. So these two brackets are not the same. So we don't have the highest common factor. But fortunately, we can create a common bracket. We can create a common bracket. Let's discuss this. Right, creating a common bracket. I want us to look at these two situations, x minus y and y minus x. We are saying they are not equal. And they will never be equal, but we can have a common bracket. So if we want to create a common bracket, we factor out negative 1. If we factor out negative 1 from these terms here, what will we get? Let's try to do that. Let me do it by this idea. So we have y minus x. And then I factor out negative 1. I put negative 1 outside the bracket. Remember, negative 1, you don't usually write the 1, just write negative, okay? And then we say y divided by negative 1, and then minus x divided by negative 1. Right, what do we get? We'll get negative, let me just write negative, and then y divided by negative 1 is negative y. And then negative x divided by negative 1 is positive x. And then this can be written as, inside the bracket, can be written as x minus y. You see that? Now, the brackets are the same now. We have x minus y here. We have x minus y there. But what has happened? We have factored out negative 1. So if you factor out negative 1, we can create common brackets. How do we create common brackets? We factor out negative 1 to create common brackets. Okay? Right. So I want us to try and use what we have just discussed here. Okay, let me continue with this first. Right, becomes x minus y here, and then still they're not equal. Okay, because, and then this one you can factor it out and say this is x minus y. So now we have a common bracket, x minus y and x minus y. We have factored out negative 1. I want us to use this in the next question. You think you can try it on your own? You can. Let me give you 1 minute. 1 minute, you try on your own, then I'm going to show you the answer. Let's try. Right, welcome back, greetings. Let's try to do this together. So we have 2 minus x here and x minus 2. These are not the same, but we can create common brackets by factoring out -1 here. It's just easy. Greetings, it's just easy. You know what you do? X minus y. When you're factoring out -1, what you do? Just swap these things around. Just do that. Becomes y minus x. Then you just put your negative outside the bracket. Done. Just swap them around. Then you're done. Okay? Right. So let's do this. So we factored out -1 becomes 2 minus x. But now that negative is going to affect the positive 3 here. So that's why we have -3 there. You see that? It's now -3. And then now we have our common brackets. Now we can go back to our factorizing or factorization using the highest common factor. We factor out our common bracket now. And then what we get? We get 2 minus x and 2x minus 3. Remember I said there's a common bracket, which is this. And then just take this and this to form the second bracket. It's a shorter way of doing it. Right, this is how we factorize using the highest common factor. I want us to go to the next part of factorization, which is factorizing the trinomial, the quadratic trinomial. The quadratic trinomial. Oh, factorize full as an activity. Let me explain this activity. Right, okay. Right, this one, what we do, we swap this around. It's going to change this and become -2. So it's x minus 1, -2, and then x minus 1, okay? And then we can factor out x minus 1, and then we get x minus 2, something like that, okay? Right, so that's what you can do there. Did I do it correct? I think I did it fast. Yes, it's correct, okay? Right, let's move on to the trinomial now. We're factorizing the trinomial. Right, so the trinomial, the quadratic trinomial is in the form. Okay, let me write the 4 different situations. You can have x squared plus bx plus c. You can have x squared minus bx minus c. You can have x squared plus bx minus c. You can have x squared minus bx plus c. This is what is represented by this. It's just summarized by that, okay? Right. Now, I want us to observe something here. I know we have done factorization of the trinomial in grade 8 and 9, and then just say find the factors of 12, and then that we can add and give you the coefficient of x. I want us to discuss that part, okay? Just to discuss that part so that we remind ourselves about that. So now, if you factorize this trinomial, you are going to get factors which are going to be in this form. You know that, isn't it? If you factorize the quadratic trinomial, you are going to get 2 binomials. Okay, right, let's expand these 2 binomials. Let's find the product of these 2 binomials, expanding using FOIL. You know FOIL? X times x, x squared. X times b, bx. A times x, ax. A times b, ab. Right, here we can factor out x, and then we get something like this, which is x squared plus a plus b, x, and ab. Right, I want us to compare these two. Or let me just write something on top here. Ax squared plus bx plus c. Right. What happens if you multiply a and b? What happens if you multiply a and b? Your AB. Your AB is actually equal to your constant, in this case 12, which is our C in general. So if we have our two brackets, these two numbers, if we multiply them, they give us the constant, which is AB. What happens if we add them? If we say A plus B, this part, they give us the coefficient of x, which is the number before x. In this case, they must give us 7. That is why when you are factorizing the quadratic trinomial, we find the factors of the constant. In this case, we find the factors of 12. These factors, if we add them, they must give us 7. I think you have seen this. You've just proved that here. You see that? That's what I wanted you to observe. Okay? We look for the factors that will give us the coefficient of x if we add them. So the constant term is a product of a and b, and then the coefficient of x is the sum of a and b. Okay? I want us to use this to do the next question. X squared plus 7x plus 12. So we say that we can have our two brackets, which is x plus a times x plus b. You can even start by writing those two brackets. Sometimes you don't even need to write the a and b. Some people just do this, the two brackets. That's what you start with. Okay? And then the product of AB is 12. It means if you multiply the two numbers, the two factors, you must get 12. And then the sum of these two factors must be 7, isn't it? Now, let's look at those factors of 12. Right. Before we look at those factors, there's something which is very, very important from these signs here. If it is positive here, there are two things. It's either the two factors are both negative. Remember, negative times negative gives you positive. So it's either the two factors are negative, both of them are negative, or both of them are positive. And then this positive here will be confirming that, yes, they have the same sign and both of them are positive. Okay? Right, we're going to be discussing those different situations there like that. So now, both factors are positive. What are the factors of 12? What do we multiply 1 with to get 12? We multiply 1 with 12. Can this combination give us a 7? No, we can't get a 7 here. Okay, we go to the next one. 2 times what to get 12? 2 times 6. Can this combination give us a 7? No, it's not going to give us a 7. We go to the next combination. What's the next one after 2? Factor of 12 is 3. You know? 3 times 4. Can this combination give us a 7? Yes. And if both are positive, plus 4 and plus 3. You see that? So it means our A can be 3 and B be 4. I'm saying can be because we can even have A being 4 and B being 3. It doesn't change anything, okay? So we can have our A as 3 and our B as 4, or our A as 4 and B as 3. And then we've just factorized. You see that? And then we write our brackets like that. We have factorized. So it means x squared plus 7x plus 12 is just equal to x plus 3, x plus 4. Okay? Right. I'll do A and B because of time, and then I'll give you C to do on your own. Is that fine? Okay. Let's start with A. X squared plus 4x minus 12. So what does this tell us if it's negative like that? It means that one factor is positive and then the other factor is negative. Because if you say positive times negative, you get negative. And then what about this one? One factor is positive, the other factor is negative. So it means here, if it's positive here, it means the bigger factor is positive. Okay? Right, let's look at the factors of 12. I've used a lot of 12s here. So 12, the combination that will give us a 4. 1 and 12, we can't get a 4 from this. 2 and 6, interesting. 2 and 6 can give us a 4. We said one factor is positive, the other factor is negative, and the bigger factor is positive. So it means here the bigger factor is 6, so it's going to be positive. The smaller factor is 2, is going to be negative. Let's check our answer. What is 6 times negative 12? Negative 2. That is negative 12. And then what is 6 minus 2? That's 4. So that's the combination you're looking for. These are our A's and B's. So we have our A and B now. We say now this becomes x minus 2, x plus 6. Done. As easy as that. Okay? Let's go to B. B, there's something very important there. Before you do anything, you can write this one down. Before you do any factorization, check if the terms have the highest common factor. Check for the highest common factor before you do anything. Okay? So if you check these 3 terms here, the highest common factor is 3. So we can factor out 3. And then what we get? We get a bracket like that. So then we factorize this part. Then we factorize that part. We look for our negative 6. If you say A times B, we must get negative 6. So it means one factor must be positive, the other factor must be negative, because when we multiply them, they give us a negative answer. And then this confirms that the bigger factor must be the one which is negative, isn't it? So let's look at the factors of negative 6. Let's look at 6, and then we'll see which combination can give us a negative 1. So we have 1 times 6. This combination cannot give us a 1 or negative 1. It's out. 2 and 3. Oh, this one can give us a 1. So we said one factor is negative, the other factor is positive, and the bigger factor must be negative. So if you say negative 3 here and positive 2 there. What is negative 3 times positive 2? That's negative 6. What is 2 minus 3? That's negative 1. This is what we are looking for. Our A can be 2, positive 2, and B negative 3. Or A can be negative 3 and B positive 2. Whichever way you want to write it. Okay, I mean, you can write it like this, or you can even say 3 and then x minus 3, x plus 2. This is just the same thing. Remember, multiplication is commutative. A times B times C is just the same as C times B times A. Just the same thing. Okay? Right. So it doesn't change anything. You can swap those brackets around, moving as brackets like that. I want to give you 1 minute to try C. And then after C, I will try to explain grouping in pairs because of time. I'll just explain. I won't give you time to do the activities when it comes to grouping in pairs. But for the last one, I want you to try for 1 minute. Let's try this one for 1 minute. Right, welcome back, Cretans. I really hope you managed to get the answer. If you're still working on your answer, please continue. If you can multitask, continue and also listen to me, okay? Right, just for this question. Right, negative 12 Oh, negative 12 again. Right, we're looking for the factors of 12 that can give us negative 11. Negative 12 that can give us negative 11. This means that one factor is positive and the other factor is negative. Then this confirms that the bigger factor is the one which is negative. Okay? So the coefficient of x, if you check, the coefficient of x takes the sign of the bigger factor. Or should I say the bigger factor takes the sign of the coefficient of x, isn't it? Yes, the bigger factor, because we're finding the factors, the bigger factor takes the sign of the coefficient of x. In this case, coefficient of x is negative 11, so the bigger factor must be negative. So let's look at the factors that can give us 11. The factors of 12. 1 goes with 12. This combination can give us 11 or negative 11, depending which one we assign negative, which one we assign positive. So we're saying the bigger factor must be the one which is negative. So this is negative 12, then positive 1. Let's check our answer. Negative 12 times positive 1, that's negative 12. We tick that, we're fine with that. Negative 12 plus 1, or 1 minus 12, that's negative 11. Oh, that's the combination we're looking for. So it means our A can be positive 1 and B negative 12, or the other way around. A being negative 12 and B being positive 1. I think I've explained that part. These are the factors. Done. Okay. Right. Now, I want to explain the last method of factorization that we're supposed to do in this lesson. Like I said, I'll try to move slowly. Well, I have to explain this in 4 minutes. Okay, so try to listen, and after this, you can try to do it on your own. Okay, right. The next method that I want us to do is called factorization by grouping in pairs. You know what a pair is? It's two things. We have the first pair, second pair, or even third pair. Right. So grouping is generally used to factorize an expression with more than 3 terms. If you check, we have done the factorization of 2 terms, of 3 terms. What about if there are 4 terms? How do we do it? We have to factorize by grouping in pairs. Okay? Right. You check which terms have the highest common factor, then you just group them. Just like grouping like terms. We know how to group terms, isn't it? A term moves with its sign. Remember that. A term moves with its sign if you're grouping terms. Factorize py plus 5q. Factorize py plus 5qy plus px plus 5qx. If you check, the first 2 terms have the highest common factor. The second pair have also the highest common factor. So we can factorize the first pair and factorize the last pair. But again, if you check, this and this, they have the highest common factor, which is p. So we can group term 1 and 3, and then also group second and fourth, because they also have the highest common factor. Do you see that? And we're going to get the same answer. Let's start by grouping first and second, and then third and fourth. Let's start by doing that one. So what is common if you look at py and 5qy? Py and 5qy is y, isn't it? So it's y, and then in the bracket, what are you going to have? Py divided by y plus 5qy divided by y. You'll get what? P plus 5q in the bracket. And then we factorize the second pair. What's common there? It's x, isn't it? The p and the q almost confused me there. It's x. So we're going to factor out x. And then you don't need to separate them like this. I'm just doing this because I'm explaining, isn't it? You just can do them once like that. So px divided by x plus 5qx divided by x. And then we remain with p plus 5q. Do you see that we're creating a common bracket there, which is p plus 5q? Okay, so if you factorize the first 2 pairs and the not the first 2 pairs, the first 2 terms being the first pair, and then the last two terms being the last pair. Right, so we'll get y times p plus 5q, and then x plus p plus 5q like that, times 5p plus 5q like that. And then we have a common bracket that we can factor out, and then we get our answer like that. This forms our first bracket, the common bracket forms our first bracket, and then this term and this term, or this variable and this variable, they form what? This second bracket. I think I explained the longer way of what? Of factorizing using the highest common factor. Okay, so this is how we factorize by grouping in pairs. Right, you can also maybe group the first and the third, and then the second and the fourth, like that. I said the sign, sorry, the term moves with its sign. Then we can rearrange them like this, and then you factorize them, just like we did with the first option. And then what do you get? We're getting the same answer if you check. Okay, right. Let's just take 1 minute break, and then when we come back, we're going to summarize our lesson.
Believe in yourself. Believe a little more in yourself, because to those that believe, nothing is impossible. You have done this before. You have passed your tests before. You have went into a higher grade before. It is possible because you have done it before. Do not doubt yourself. Keep believing in yourself. Keep pushing, because this can be done and you can be great.
Right, welcome back, grade 10s. Let's summarize our lesson. I want you to copy these three. Okay, don't write a lot of things, just copy the 3 questions, and then this is your homework. I'm going to give you 30 seconds. I'm not going to go anywhere. I'll wait for you here. 30 seconds. Let's try. Copy these 3. That becomes your homework. Okay, let's try. Okay, welcome back. I know that maybe there's some people who are still copying. Please, you can get the other questions from your colleagues, those who are faster. I was also writing by the side, and I managed to finish writing these in 20 minutes. In 20 seconds, sorry, in 20 seconds. Okay, right, let's summarize our lesson, grade 10. Right, so we didn't do a lot of discussions. I really hope that in next week's lesson, we're going to be discussing. We didn't get questions from you, learners. Please, let's discuss during the lessons. Okay, so we said that a -1 can be factored out to create what? A common bracket. Don't forget that. A quadratic trinomial factorizes into a product of 2 binomials. Remember that. When factorizing, always start by looking for the highest common factor. Right, thank you very much, grade 10s. We are going to meet in our next lesson. Please don't miss the lesson. We're going to be discussing more algebra. Okay, let's meet in our next lesson. Thank you.